A gluten-free diet is a really controversial concept in today's nutritional world. So many people are told that gluten is really only something that 1 in 100 people need to be concerned with. Those are the people who have celiac disease. But the research really suggests otherwise. If we're to take a look at the mechanisms involved within the intestinal lining, when any of us are exposed to gluten, especially one type of gluten known as gliadin, which is the type of gluten found in wheat and in the most close wheat relatives, it's really clear. There isn't a human being on this planet that has a favorable response to gliadin or to that type of gluten. What happens is, when we eat gluten and that makes its way into the intestinal environment, there's a secretion that takes place at the intestinal lining known as zonulin. Zonulin, as an intestinal secretion, breaks down the tiny protein filaments that hold the cells of our digestive lining together. This has two profound effects. It increases the level of intestinal permeability present, which can allow substances into our bloodstream that do not belong there, and it can increase the level of inflammation within the GI or at that intestinal lining to the point where it can spill over into other areas of our physiology. So there are two detrimental effects that have been demonstrated in every human being that's ever been in a gliadin or a gluten trial by researchers like Alessio Fasano, considered to be the world's foremost expert on gluten tolerance and intolerance. So while maybe a few of us have celiac disease, it's very important to consider gluten intolerance and to the way we physiologically respond to gluten on a spectrum. Many of us know we have celiac disease if we're diagnosed at a young age, but a lot of us can limp through life with higher levels of inflammation, higher levels of intestinal permeability, and a lot of chronic disease surrounding those two things, never knowing that the gluten, and in particular the type of gluten, gliadin, found in wheat, as being the root cause of that suffering. So consider giving up gluten for a period of time. I can assure you, as long as you're not relying on heavily refined gluten-free products like gluten-free breads and gluten-free Pop-Tarts, you'll be doing yourself a big favor. Look at whole foods that are gluten-free as a core staple for your day-to-day meal choices, and I can assure you there'll be no harm in your own N=1 trial.